Hello, so I'm going to show you just a quick little video about how to add elements to your collage. This is something that we did when we worked on the Frankenstein monsters. This is just sort of giving you a little refresher on that. So I have my background ready. I don't know if you can see it has a little bit of implied texture added to it. It's just a flower photo that I have that I took several years ago. You're going to be adding 10 different elements at least to your collage, okay? I'm only going to be showing you one because 10 would make this video a lot longer. But once you see how to do it once, you'll have no problem doing it over and over again. So I'm going to be taking Lucille here and putting her onto one of these flower petals. So that's my goal for right now. So I have that image open that I'm working with, and I'm going to go to the quick selection tool here, which I don't know if you remember using that before. I need to make sure it's on the plus sign because I'm adding, and I'm going to make this a little bigger, okay, and I can just click and drag to add more, adding to this selection here, okay. And this one's pretty easy, honestly, because she's on a solid sort of violet background here. That makes it easy. So it's adding pixels and colors that it sees that are similar. And I do realize that I've selected some things that I don't want, this purple here, between the legs. So you notice I went up and I went to the minus, which means I am subtracting from my selection. I'm saying, no, I don't want that, and taking it away, okay? So I'm trying to do this kind of quickly for the sake of this video, but you, of course, could always go in and really refine this. You know, I can still see I could do a little bit of work down here. Would require me making this brush a little bit smaller to take away that, and take away this little bit right there. Then sometimes it takes away more than you want. You got to add a little bit back, but you want to try and get the selection as accurate as you can. Okay. Whoa, didn't mean to do that. She's going all over the place. Okay. So you can hit select and mask. You can bring this up a pixel or two, the edge detection. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. Oh, don't want that. All right, so I'm going to hit Command C, and again, I'm on a Mac, so I'm using this Command key. I'm copying it. I think you might hit Control C on a PC, but I hit Command C, and then I'm going to go back over to my background, and I hit Command V, okay? And obviously she's too big. She's a giant chicken here, right? So I hit Command T for transform. And just like we did before, I can scale her down using transform. I believe it's Control T on the PC. I haven't been on a PC since we were in school because at home I live in the land of Macs. All right, so I am shrinking her down. Although you can play around with scale depending on, what your collage is. So, maybe you want a giant chicken running through a city like Godzilla. Okay, so I will do that. I'll leave her that size. So now I'm going to zoom in. And you can see what happens. I have my background layer, and I have layer 2. She's on layer 2. So when I bring these other elements in, they're going to put them on new layers, which is exactly what I want right now, so that I can go in and work on her or whatever it is I bring in on that layer. So if I'm not entirely happy with this edge, if there's, let's say it took more than I wanted, I can go in and I can use my eraser tool. If she had some extra stuff sticking off here, you could use the eraser, and as long as I'm on her layer, let's say maybe I don't like this edge so much. I think that pink was a little bit of a grab from the background of the other image. And I can do this to make this edge look a little more realistic, a little softer. I'm just using the eraser tool and going in and erasing some of her away. So that's a good option. Also, if I had messed up these feet, if I had some extra stuff hanging off, again, I could go in there and erase. As long as you're on the right layer, the layer of the item that you are pasting, you can erase whatever it is that you want. Okay, so actually she's pretty good. She didn't, I don't have too many problems with her. If I wanted to, another thing I could do to soften my edges so she doesn't look too much like, a stamp. So I can go in and I'm going to use the blur tool here. Remember, which looks like a little raindrop. And I can go around the edges. Right now it's set to 43. So I can go up and put whatever I need it set at and go in and soften those edges up. That's helpful if you feel like your object is perhaps too sharp. So soften the edges with the blur. Another thing I can do to make her fit better so she doesn't look so stuck on there is I can click on my background and then I can go here to my burn tool. See if anybody remembers what the burn tool does. It's going to darken. So that's a little big. Make it a little smaller. All right, so I can go in here and underneath her, I am darkening. Now I might say that's not showing up enough. I have it on shadow. I'm going to try midtones. So I want it to darken more of this midtone area. And if I feel like it's not showing up enough, I can raise the exposure higher. Definitely that'll make it darker. But you kind of want to finesse it because you don't want it to look like this giant dark blob, You want it to have a soft edge like a real shadow. So then if I pull back, have a little bit of darkness under her, look like there's a shadow there, which will help make it look a little more realistic. Okay, so just to backtrack a review, you will have your whatever your background image is. So in this case, I had this flower image with some of the implied texture there. You're going to have your other images open. I'm only working with one. You're going to be working with more than one because you'll be adding 10 different items. And then you'll be selecting them. So remember, I used the quick selection tool. And then I Control-C, I copied it, or Command-C on a Mac, and Command-C or Control-V to paste into your background, which I did. And then remember, Control or Command-T, transform to scale down. Hopefully remember that from the things that we did when we were in school with the Frankenstein's monster collage that we made, okay? And then go in and using the blur tool, softening your edges, erasing any extra stuff that you don't need sticking off on here, and creating shadows underneath, because you want to end up having it look like the items that you put in here like they belong, right? They should look like they belong. And then you're going to go in and once you have these different items placed, you can go in and play around with these different blending modes that we looked at before for your implied texture background. And you can see what's happening to her. Whoa, it's like crazy, crazy chicken. You can see if any of these make sense. That doesn't make sense. She just disappeared with that one, right? So maybe there's one that you think adds to your design, maybe not. If not, then you don't have to use that blend mode for that particular item you're adding. It might work better for others. You can also look up here at filters and look into adding different filters to the items that you add into your collage and just kind of finding ways to bring it all together, okay? And we can talk a little bit more about that in the coming week, but this should definitely be good to get you started on cutting and pasting, collaging your items in there. Remember to start off with large images that are large size, just like when we looked for the house picture for the base of your house because if you're going to paste this teeny tiny image in here, when you have to scale it up or down or play around with it, it's going to look very pixelated, and you don't want that. I started off with 2 large photographs, large high quality, high PPI photographs to begin with, and that's going to ensure from the beginning you're going to have an easier time with a higher quality image. Okay, so go ahead and get started and let me know if you have questions.